Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alyx King and Bill G. Today is Tuesday, April the 9th, 2019. It's 4 p.m. in New York. It's 1 p.m. in Los Angeles, 9 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is at around 8 a.m. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And once again, we are starting a Tuesday afternoon show in an extremely silly mood. That means happy things are about to come. It means that we'll be answering live stream questions, and it means I think I see the pendulum. The pendulum is coming out. The
The pendulum is
pendulum.
a swinging.
We gotta do a song about that. Did you have a song for it? Do you have a pendulum song? There ought to be a pendulum song.
I have no idea.
The pendulum is a
Although,
swinging. That's the song.
although I have to say that I really enjoyed listening to your podcast with Linda Armstrong on Friday, all about
Hmm.
pendulums.
Yes, yes, yes. I had that in mind. I had the fact that you had your pendulum in mind when I brought that up. I think you heard that part.
Yes, yes, I did.
Yeah. And by the way, I talked to Linda afterward. She said, "Yeah, why don't you bring Bill into a show sometime? We can see how it all mixes together on a Friday. So come on to a Friday show sometime."
All right, sounds great.
Okay.
Woot
So
woot.
let's see now. Are we still analyzing Alyx, and is Alyx actually willing to put up with that? I mean, that's
Oh
actually
yeah.
probably the first question. You're still willing to do that? Okay.
All right.
So Alex the guinea pig has said, yes, let's keep going. Just keep
Mhm.
feeding me the pellets, and I'm happy. No problem.
They gave me a wheel. I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere, but boy, does it feel good.
Doesn't go anywhere, but that's all right. I just have to feel like I'm getting exercise.
That's right, exactly. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's see. Where did we leave it last time, Bill? I mean, we've made a fair amount of progress.
We
Or I
have.
should say, you and or the pendulum has made a fair amount of progress in helping
hmm
Spirit tell us what the heck's going
Yeah.
on with Alex. But where are we right now?
Well, again, the pendulum's just a tool. The pendulum is just a means of communication with high self and our high
hmm
self committees and all that stuff, and making sure that we're researching what is needing to be cleared and all that. And where we left off is we've been researching Alex's issues of anxiety, relationships, agoraphobia. Basically, there's a lot of things going on in Alex's life that we've been doing some research on, and we seem to be the recurring theme that we've come up with is this extraordinarily creative soul that is trapped inside Alex's body that needs to come out.
Which doesn't surprise anyone, because she's a
It
very
doesn't,
creative
yeah,
No.
soul. We knew that before we even started this. I mean, the pendulum didn't tell us anything.
but the expression, and the where we're stuck at is the expression of that creativity.
Okay.
hmm
We have that. It's really great that we have technology that allows us to see Alex and be with Alex without Alex actually going out anywhere.
Yep.
And yeah, hey, even 10 years ago, you would have been in a much more isolated place
This is true.
Yes.
or
Fact.
a much more lonely place. So,
Yes.
I mean, it's
I
really,
was.
really great that technology, and this is actually part of the overall global emergence that's going on, is the introduction of technology that allows us to connect in real time.
Mm.
Not just over the telephone and whatever. I mean, I do clearings for people over the telephone, but I also do use Skype and I use Zoom and I, use technology so that way it has the same effect as if you were sitting on the couch next to me, the same
Right.
kind of thing. So
hmm
so technology is a wonderful thing that allows us to do the work.
Hmm.
So where I usually go with a client after we've done a few clearings, like we've done with Alex, is then we go on to try and discern the entire life pattern, and we do that by doing what we call an inner child research or an inner child progression. Now, the inner child is that inner part of your soul that is traveling along this journey and has made all of the contracts and all the deals for the experiences that you're going to experience throughout your entire lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we discovered last time that you didn't always have the anxiety. You didn't always have agoraphobia or anything like that. It kind of developed when you were in your late 20s,
Yep.
and it seemingly came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Greg Brandon is recently came out with a YouTube video where he discusses how often diseases or illnesses that come out of nowhere are due to childhood traumas that we experienced when we were very young, and because we were children, we suppressed them because we didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with whatever trauma that we were experiencing. So we just kind of kept that in our memory banks, and then it expresses itself in disease or illness when you reach a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Robert Detzler, who wrote all of the work here for SRT, also goes along with that same notion, but he takes it a step further in that it's a combination not just of childhood traumas, but it's also also the traumas and programs that we've placed on our soul path from the very beginning, before we were even born. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So what we do with an inner child progression is we start you off before you're even born.
Mm-hmm.
And we figure out what kind of imprints were put on your soul by the people in your life, by the other souls that are involved in your life, the other cast of characters, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Because, life is just like Shakespeare says, life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. The souls that we come into this life with are all players in our little play that we call life, and they're here to teach us things. They're here to be our foils. They're here to be our companions. They're here to teach us things.
Right.
I always think Shakespeare was just here to mess with our mind, but apparently there's more to it than that, so that's good.
That's one of my favorite plays, by the way.
All right.
The Scottish play. So what we're going to do first we got to do our prep to work, of course. We got to just make sure that we're nice and clear and that we're nice and connected, and that Alyx and I are coming from the right place, and we are, which is great. And so we're getting our messages from high self. Our high selves have been elevated to the maximum level. We're dealing with how many members of my soul committee? We've got 4. We're going to bring that down to 2. My soul committee is now down to 3. I'll take 3. And then Alyx's soul committee is at what? Oh, we're already at 2. All right. So we didn't have to fire anybody today. That's great.
Well done. I'd say you have your soul committee in better order than Bill has his.
Yes, well, they listen to directions. That's what it is. They're
that's
like,
right. They take direction. Hey, that's a number one aspect of any good actor or writer or anything, is the ability to take direction.
Yep.
There you go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and research what you were doing in the womb. We start off in the womb. And then the next thing we do is we figure out who is involved in this particular imprint. And again, it is going to the cousin. You've got some issues with that cousin. Is it the same cousin we were talking about before? Yes, it is the same cousin.
Okay, I was going to say.
So next we
I just have a question. What was your cousin doing in the same womb as you? That's all I want.
No.
I told you we're connected because we're 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day apart.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, so.
And he's not even a real cousin. That's the thing.
So
Yeah.
basically worse. I mean, it's like, it's not even
Yeah.
fair.
Like my mother has only had one brother and he had no kids. So he's not a real cousin. He's a friend of the family.
Mhm.
So
Great
while
friends
you were
in
in the
quotation.
womb, the soul of this particular cousin put a imprint of
Uh-huh.
self-limitation on you, of self-limitation, okay, that you would be limiting
Mm.
yourself. And this is something that even was he, or are you older than him or younger than him?
I'm younger.
You're younger than him. So
Yep.
even when he was a little bitty baby,
Mm-hmm.
his soul, his soul was putting a imprint of limitation on you, that you'll be limiting yourself. Now that's,
Mm-hmm.
we think this is a bunch of bunk, but but this is souls work in very
Mysterious
interesting.
ways.
Yes, they surely do. So we're
Yeah.
gonna clear this.
So he wasn't busy enough being a toddler. He also had to go start messing with Alex at the same time. This is
That's
a kind of
right.
Now,
kid. This is a kid
and
who 100 years ago would have been dipping pigtails into inkwells. That's the kind of kid we're
Right, right.
talking.
yep, yep.
At one, 1 year old.
At 1 year old.
Okay, there we go. All right, the next we're gonna go to is at birth. So now Alex is being born. Now we're gonna
Yay.
Now we're going to look at where the next imprint is going to be. Now, most of the imprints that are put onto children is within the first 7 days. So most of the programs that are being put on you after you're born, most
Yeah.
of the programs that you have to deal with for the majority of your life brought onto you, imprinted on you by others, is within the
Uh-huh.
first 7 days. So we spend a lot of time doing this inner child progression in the first 7 days, and
Okay.
then we move on from there. And then it skips a lot since then, because we could be at this for hours and hours and hours if we did. Okay, now we're doing the next day and the next day and the
Right.
next day.
Right.
Who says that kids can't tell time? We have a toddler who's able to time it down to within 7 days of your birth. I mean, that's pretty good time telling right there.
Okay, so now we got a neighbor involved, and the
Hmm.
neighbor has an imprint of restlessness.
Hmm.
This was a long time ago, so I don't remember this neighbor.
Yeah. Now
Unless
this
it was one of the neighbors that was a relative of mine, because that's possible.
was it a relative? No, it was a neighbor who was not a relative.
Okay.
But this is very interesting. We before we're even born,
Mhm.
we
Yep.
have a deal. We have contracts
Yes.
with
Soul
all the
contract.
souls that are surrounding us.
Yep.
And this neighbor could have been 80 years old and had already lived a full life, but you made a contract with them before they were even born
Yep.
that this imprint would be placed on you.
Mhm.
So there's restlessness that's involved. So we're going to clear that now. And then we're going to progress the inner child a little further.
Okay.
Okay. Now that's clear. Now we're going to days. How many days? On day 4. And day 4, someone else put an imprint on you,
Mhm.
and that was a minister, priest, rabbi, or other person of faith, a clergy person. So minister, I guess.
Were they alive or had they had passed over?
Alive or not? Alive. They were alive.
Okay. Nope, I don't know who that is, but
Okay. Was your family particularly religious or no during that time?
a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So on day 4, a minister was aware of your birth,
Mhm.
gave you an imprint of self-destruction.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I don't know,
Self-destruction.
Alex. I think your infant self need to learn the song that came out probably a few years before you were born, where the chorus says, "Don't hand me no lies and keep your hands to yourself," because that's what you
Yeah,
should have been telling all these people.
yeah, yeah. So there was a minister, priest, or whatever figure who,
Uh-huh.
again, a lot of these are contracts and whatever. A lot of this stuff is being done subconsciously, and
Right, right.
this particular minister may have just been feeling in a low place one day,
Mhm.
and that energy, whenever you're experiencing a really um, strong emotion, positive or negative, it ripples out around you and
Yes.
influences those around you. And
Mhm.
children, especially newborns, are extremely sensitive to that energy.
Yes. So true.
And a lot of people, see the infant, they're doing their thing and whatever, and a lot of people view infants as kind of like, really smart animals.
Yep.
That is
You know,
true.
it
Boy,
doesn't it it doesn't matter what you say or do in front of them. They're not going to remember nothing anyway.
That's what you think.
That's what you think, right? Or and actually, since children, especially infants, are so close to being they're closer to the non-physical than they are in the physical.
Mhm.
They are aware of subtle energies
Mhm.
more than anybody else. You lose that more as the older you get. You have to
Yep.
relearn that. So I mean, you're looking at an infant. You're looking at a sponge,
Yes.
and however you are feeling in that moment, you are creating an imprint on that child, which if you had an actual contract with that child's soul or whatever, that's going to come out later,
Yep.
and maybe in a big way.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I just have one question. With these soul
Yes.
contracts, how many breaches of contract are there?
Breaches of contract. Well, the thing is, that's kind of funny because the contract is usually something negative,
Mhm.
of experiential. So
Yep.
there's no breach there.
Yeah.
The breach,
I don't know.
the best.
Personally, I think that if a contract is really not something that you wanted, then it should be considered a breach. But apparently, the spirit realm disagrees with that, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and
Well, this
actually,
is what
you
you
can
wanted.
you can get rid of the contract. You
I,
can
I, I have trouble
clear
believing
the contract.
I was that demented when I was in the
Yeah.
spirit realm.
Well, and it's weird about that. We
Mhm.
think that, why are we so, if I'm going to be a non-physical being and I'm going to choose a physical life, I'm going to choose to be rich and I'm going to be sipping Mai Tais on the beach, and that's going to be my whole life. But you don't learn anything in those lifetimes.
Exactly. Exactly.
You only learn through contrast. You only learn through struggle. And so, are we demented as non-physical beings going into the physical realm, making our lives miserable? Yeah, I guess. But you're here to learn. You're not here to sit mai tais on the beach.
See, I buy into the Richard Bach theory
Yeah.
of why we're here. Yes, we're here to learn, but there's also another primary reason, and that's to have fun. That's to enjoy it.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Having
Mhm.
fun is very important. Yes, I agree with that completely. And so that's another reason why we try and clear some of this stuff, so that way you can learn to relax and enjoy life, because there's a lot to enjoy here. It's not
But
just all about struggle.
am I the only one
Yeah.
who's seeing this, though? I mean, as I understand it, when we're in the spirit realm, in our higher selves or in our higher vibration selves
Mhm.
making these choices. We're making these choices, and once we get here, we say, I really wish I didn't make that choice. I want to reverse that. So we're basically saying when we're in our physical bodies, we we're really smarter to reverse what we came up with when we were in our spiritual, non-physical, non-bodies, or whatever you want to call it. In other words, we're
But that
overruling ourselves.
but that's after you've experienced it. You have to experience it to know that that's not what you prefer.
Right.
Boy, are
You're
we
not going to,
dumb.
and the fact that when we're born, our memories are erased. I
Yep.
mean, our active memories are erased of all the
Mhm.
previous lifetimes we've had and all the mistakes that we've made. I mean, we'll remember little glimpses,
Sometimes I think
like
this is just a
images
big
of a
sick joke
dream.
that's being pulled on us, you know. This is
Yeah.
just this is like a cosmic prank, is what it is.
Eh,
Yes, you're going to go into this life. You're not going to remember anything. You're going to have all of these contracts attached to you that you really don't want once you get there, and then you're going to clear them.
Or you're just going to learn from them, or you're just going to experience them. And
Yep.
I had a client about a year ago who was I mean, just not to turn this conversation too serious, but she had a son who was serving a prison sentence for drug dealing,
Mm.
and he was also an opiate addict. And
Mhm.
so what she wanted to know was the lesson that she was a bad mother. And so
Wow.
we researched it, and we came to the conclusion that it had nothing to do with you. It had
Right.
this was his karma. This was his path. He
Yeah.
chose this path. He wanted to experience this path. And um, any kind of guilt that you were feeling for what he decided to do with his life is not your guilt,
Right.
because this was something he chose for himself. So some people come into this lifetime to be murderers. Some people come to this lifetime to do really bad things to themselves and other people, because again their souls want to experience that kind of contrast. Now, if
Yep.
you don't want to spend the rest of your life in prison, if you want to live a better life, then you better darn well figure out what those lessons are, what those experiences are that you came into the lifetime to have, clear them, learn from them, clear them, and that way you can live a higher destiny, a more positive destiny, rather than having to experience the old thing. Now that doesn't mean that life's going to stop happening,
Mhm.
because life is going to keep happening, because there are some things that will show up on the charts after the fact, because
Mhm.
it was such a program buried so deep down in the subconscious that the high self was like, no, we're not going to tell you what that is, because you came here to experience that, come hell or high water.
Mm.
And then after you've experienced it, then we'll debrief. Then we'll learn from it.
Right.
But beforehand, no, you can't avoid this. This is big. This is a major thing you need to learn in your life, and we're going to do it.
Mhm.
I think I'll take my ties for $200, Alex.
Yeah. So we're moving on.
Moving on from day 4.
Moving on. We're now into day 9. Now is that pure or bad? Yeah. We've got at day 9, we have something from your father,
Oh
and
boy.
abandonment.
Yeah, facts.
So now you mentioned, I think I heard you in an earlier podcast mention that your father was a bus driver.
Yep.
Yeah. So I imagine that during your childhood you didn't see a whole lot of him.
Uh, well, no, yeah, because he would take me on his trips with him.
Oh, okay.
That's when he was really on a bus trip.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've I've got a lot of mileage. So
Yes.
No wonder you want to stay home. I don't blame you.
Yes.
you know, I'm just spent from my childhood.
Oh,
I
boy.
see it. Whoa. On the road again.
Yep, facts.
So now we're into the third week. And again, we're going to take a look at our cast of characters.
I'm gonna watch this back and ask my mother a lot of questions.
So now we're going, is it
The
Uncle?
first one being, what did you do to me?
No,
Now
first one
we've got a
being
friend.
who's this neighbor and who's this minister
Oh,
and
who's
what
the
did they? Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
that's
she
more
probably
pressing.
won't know. She might not know, or she might. It might make for a very interesting conversation.
That's my goal. That's what I'm hoping because she's got a very good memory. So
I mean,
Oh, there you
I
go.
learned things. I mean, I grew up in a very close knit church, and then after I was an adult, I learned some things about the minister that I respected very, very much, that I probably didn't want to know, but I'm sure made an impression on me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes. All right, show me. Okay, so we've got a friend with an imprint of selfishness at 3 weeks. Okay, now let's move on. Months.
it's funny.
Now we're into the months. At 6 months, we have a mother.
So mom didn't kick in till 6 months.
Didn't kick in until 6 months. Isn't that interesting?
She
Usually
was
the
doing
mother
all
usually
the
kicks
work.
in a lot earlier than that.
A little bit.
And I just want to give a brief note to Siraj. I got your message for Bill, but Bill obviously is in the middle of doing his pendulum thing, so I'll bring it up
Okay.
after he's got a break where he can address it more directly.
Okay. 6 months, we got the mother, a self-punishment program
Ooh. Wait, for me or for her?
for her, but involves you. But it's an imprint.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still an imprint. It's when we talk about imprints, these are usually programs that people are dealing with themselves that they then pass on to you.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. That's the
Okay,
crazy thing
next.
about being a parent, because as a parent, you're constantly passing messages on to your children, even when you're not intending to. That's kind of a tough
Yeah.
thing. But,
It is. It
Yep.
is. And you speaking as a parent myself. I mean, I got a 10-year-old, and my wife and I talk about this a lot. It's like, oh, what do we tell him and what do we don't tell him? And we decided very early on, we're letting him in on everything. As much
Yeah.
as is age appropriate, of course. But every hardship, every major decision we make, he's involved in it, and we seek his input, and we model talking through each problem
Yep.
and involving him in that problem solving, because I grew up where the adults made decisions and I was completely out of the loop.
Yep.
And so things just happened to me, and some of them were
That's
good,
the
some of them
worst.
were bad, but I was always appreciative when people actually sat down and talked to me like a human being rather than as a mindless, kid running around the place.
it makes a
Right.
big difference.
It
It
does
Yeah,
make
does. It does.
because it teaches empowerment.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
It also
So,
teaches that the universe isn't completely crazy. There's actually a little bit of sanity to it. That's also a good thing.
Yeah.
right.
And that also teaches you how to deal with change as opposed to things just being sprung upon you,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is how I was raised, which is why I don't deal well with change.
Mm.
Yep.
So,
You might as well bring them in on the conversation because they're affected by it anyway. It doesn't matter whether you tell them about it.
Exactly.
right.
It doesn't matter whether it's even directly involving them. They're still going to get the vibration of it. So you might as well tell them what's going on.
We know everything.
Which we were talking about.
We
Did you,
kids.
Kids, yeah.
so now we're at 8 years.
Wow, that was a jump.
It was a jump. And the person who came up as a therapist
At 8 years?
at 8 years.
Huh.
Now I imagine that were you in therapy at age 8?
No, no.
And again, the selfishness came up.
I have to ask, what does it mean by selfishness?
Mm.
Selfishness, it's an imprint. So it's whatever the therapist himself or herself was dealing with an issue of feeling selfish, or there was some kind of negative program surrounding it that was then
Hmm.
imprinted on Alyx's soul at that age.
Hmm.
Now, I assume you were going to school at age 8, yes?
Yes.
And there are guidance counselors at said school, yes?
Yes.
Okay, they would
Mm.
probably, yeah.
Okay. All right. I smell what you're stepping in. Okay.
And it
I,
ain't
I
pretty.
spent I spent quite a bit of time in therapy when I was in elementary school,
Boy.
from speech impediments to
Hmm.
dealing with the fact that I was an identical twin. Well, I mean, it's being an identical twin is interesting, and I'll just digress for a moment here, because identical twins are very psychically linked,
Hmm.
especially the identical ones. Not so much fraternals, but definitely identicals.
Hmm.
Which is why they have a tendency to not develop verbal language skills as quickly as other kids.
Hmm.
They have their own language between each other, and that's usually enough. My brother and I would play together. We basically spoke our own language. We knew what each other was going to say before we said it, et cetera, et cetera. So because we were a little behind our classmates, they put us into speech therapy, trying to
Hmm.
fix that problem.
Yeah.
So it was a thing that created an imprint in me that I was somehow broken,
Hmm.
that I was always needing a special assistance, that I wasn't as worthy as my other classmates, and that
Hmm.
took me years to get over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta love the public school systems.
True.
Yep. Anyway, moving on. So we're still into the years now. Are we getting to the tens yet? We are. So show me. So at age 12, okay. All right. I'm try and go quickly here so that way we have time for questions. So, oh, interesting.
Yeah, this is when it starts to get interesting.
So at age 12, you were contacted by an ascended master.
I'm sorry, what?
You woke her up.
An ascended master is a non-physical being who is usually somebody who has passed,
Uh-huh.
who then is here to guide you in your life in a positive way.
Okay.
Okay?
At age 12.
At age 12.
Hmm.
So, is it a positive or negative?
Oh dear.
It's positive. Sorry,
Woo, okay.
I'm on the negative chart. So I was going to the negative chart. I was like, that does not feel right. So I'm going to go to the positive chart.
Well, especially since you said that he guides her, or it,
Yeah,
whatever, he or she guides Alex in a positive way. How
right.
could it be negative?
So now at age 12, you have an ascended master giving you an impression of love of life.
Okay.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
Yes.
That, I didn't expect that. Okay, now we're back at years. And now we're going to 24. At age 24,
Wow.
That's a leap.
it is
Yeah.
Lee. And now we're going to person. Do you have any sisters?
Yep.
You do. Sister came up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So are we going positive or negative? Let me see. This one's a negative.
I was gonna say I guarantee it's negative.
All right. Health abuse is coming up.
Hmm?
Health abuse.
Is that an oxymoron?
Yeah.
That is good.
I certainly hope not. Now we're at age 31. All right. And what's your current age again?
35.
Right. So now we have a grandmother. Positive, negative, negative.
Mm-hmm.
Again with the self-limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that it for our inner child progression? Yes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to ask Spirit to tell us a little bit about your future. If there are any planned major disasters, diseases, or whatever that is going to be coming up in your future current lifetime, and so we can clear them.
Yeah, let's
Ready,
clear
Chris?
them.
So age
Good idea.
Right?
No, I think I'd rather
30,
have disasters, please. Yeah. No, I don't think so.
age 37.
Oh boy.
Is it going to be on the disease charts? No, it's not. Good.
Because there are enough of those going on.
Yep. So it's going to be a program with a person. Yes. Okay. Business, is it counselor or business associate? Business associate. At age 37, business associate. Positive, negative, negative. Show me. Lying. So a business associate is going to be lying to you. That apparently is going to cause some problems, so we'll clear that. And again, these are not necessarily things that are going to stop life from happening,
Right.
but it's designed to make you aware of patterns that you've put in front of you, so that way
Mm-hmm.
we can clear them before they become a problem.
Okay.
And clarify one thing. Are these things that absolutely would have happened, or are they tendencies that could have happened?
That's a darn good question, and I don't have a good answer to that one.
Okay, well, that's an honest answer anyway.
Yeah, because it mixes your soul contracts with free will.
Right,
So it's
right.
like it could be either
Because
way.
because if you have a belief that something bad is going to happen, law of attraction says you're absolutely correct.
Yep.
But if you believe that you are going to have a learning experience that you that you don't want to experience, and so you reframe it to something that is going to be positive, then
Mm-hmm.
if it should actually come to pass, then your interpretation of that event is not going to be as devastating as it would have been if you did not have the soul awareness in the first place.
Okay.
See, this sounds like a could to me rather than a would. This sounds like a possibility, which makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because how we interpret things, it's how we interpret things.
Mm-hmm.
Next age. Oh, we're going way up. 64.
All right, living long.
64 is young.
It is young, but it's still 30 years away from me right now, so things are looking good.
Well,
All
put it this
right.
way, the average lifespan in the mid 1800s was about 45, so
Right.
you're doing good no matter how you look at it.
Well, put it this way, everyone in my family doesn't die until 95, so I'm good.
Well, there you go.
Okay. Now at
No, I
64, it says you're going to have something going on with a daughter.
what? That's impossible.
Daughter energetically.
Surprise.
Okay. I was like, nah,
Daughter
son.
is a son, daughter. People automatically assume biological.
Okay. So it could be my niece.
Positive, negative. On the negative. Show me.
Oh.
Going to be some resentment with daughter at age 64.
And now I have a Beatles tune
It
running through my
could be
head.
worse. I'll take resentment over murder.
Right?
Because that's on this chart.
I got Paul McCartney running through my head saying, "Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?"
We can license that.
No, you don't want to license that. That was a terrible rendition.
Yeah. All right. All right. Last. Is this the last one? This is the last one. Show me. 85. At 85.
Woo!
Woohoo! At 85, we're looking at something going on with
Drum roll, please.
with an aunt.
I still
With
have
your
aunts at
aunt.
85.
At 85, you're having, they don't have to be around.
Okay, that was my next question.
Okay. Please, no jokes.
Oh no, here we go.
That means it's going to be
Sexual
easy to dig down.
perversion.
What? Oh no.
You're a dirty old lady.
Oh dear. Are you sure this isn't my grandmother talking? Oh man.
Okay, so anyway, what we do now is we make sure that everything is clear and that we're clearing any other things, avoidable pitfalls. This is taking a road ahead, looking at the road ahead, looking for the potholes. But those the illusions that are there that want you to not see the chasms, they'll still show up.
Okay.
But this is just to smooth out the road.
Gotcha.
So, what have we learned? We've learned that there are a lot of self-limitation programs that were put on you. But at the same time, when you were 12 years old, you were visited by your ascended master that imprinted upon you a love of life.
I know exactly who that is.
And so that is, that's part of the voice that you need to strengthen. And especially now that we've taken all these other people in your life and you've kind of silenced their bad feeling, their bad impressions on you. Not their bad, the thing is, it's not as if they don't love you. It's not as
Right.
if they don't care about you or whatever. They're just putting their own stuff on you.
Yeah.
And so we're ridding ourselves of that stuff so that way we can exercise our own free will and we can exercise our own level of trust in ourselves to take back our personal power. Because whenever somebody gives us an impression of a negative emotion or a negative program, we've given away our power, whether we realized it or not,
Mm.
or they've taken our power from us.
Mhm.
And this
Yeah,
is
I
a
don't
way,
allow that.
yeah, and this is a way of taking it back. But it's hard to not allow it if you don't know it's happening.
Yeah,
Because
hindsight is 2020.
and also a lot of this happens on the unconscious level.
Yeah. Mhm.
You can't stop someone from thinking something bad about you or thinking or putting or they're like, oh, Alyx reminds me of when I went through such and such.
Right.
And now that energy of that such and such, whatever experience they had, is now on you.
Mm.
And so they've taken away a piece of your power because of that. And this is something that we have to guard with ourselves too. And when we're thinking about other people, when we
Mhm.
think bad things about other people, or we assume bad things about them, we're taking away a piece of their soul power by doing that. We're putting an impression on their souls, and it's
Mhm.
making it more difficult for them to live their lives when we think bad things about people.
Mhm.
There's another reason why I avoid the news, because I can't, because that is designed to make you feel bad about other people.
Mhm.
And so when you're on the news, you are being bombarded by millions of people or thousands of people who are putting bad impressions on you now, who are thinking bad things about you, or thinking that you're a good person, bad person, or if you're a good person, a bad thing just happened to you, or
Right.
that you're a bad person and you deserve bad things to happen to you. All
Mhm.
that's energy, and it's a wave.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be very interested to know how Steve is faring in everything that Steve Rowell is doing with his foundation and all that, when he came out in the newspaper and all that, with the church. And
Mhm.
I'm sure there's a lot of he's getting a lot of love, but I'm sure he's getting an equal amount of hate.
Yep.
Nothing he's relayed to me, I can tell you that.
Yeah, but
Everything.
it's just energy. It's all that energy, and now he's in a good place because he has learned how to filter a lot of that negative energy out
Yep.
and ground that out. But
Well,
I'm sure it's affecting him on some level.
is it though? And this is what this is starting to touch on a question that I have about this whole process,
Hmm.
which is I believe in what Abraham teaches us, which
Yeah.
is that whatever we vibrate to is what we tend to attract. If we don't vibrate to it, we don't attract it.
Right.
So if we're at a high vibration, a positive, happy kind of vibration, and
Right.
someone else
Mhm.
is at a low vibration, they're sending us low vibration stuff. If we're at that high vibration level, it's like we don't even receive it. It's not, it doesn't even touch us. It doesn't reach us.
I agree. I agree completely with that. And the um, but it's not going to if you're in that high vibration place. But if you were in a low vibration place in the past, you absorbed it then, and unless you have done the research to go in and clear it out, it still lives there. A
Mhm.
piece of your soul still lives there. And this came up recently with something that I was working with my wife, and like 10 years, that was actually 15 years ago, we had a bit of a rough patch in our marriage, and I thought I got over it. And then recently, when we were talking about it, I realized, hey, a piece of my soul is still there.
Mm.
I need to go and get that piece of my soul back, because that hurt me. That incident hurt me so badly. A piece of my soul is still there, and so we explored it. It's like, well, was that piece of your soul, was that that bad feeling connected to the actual incident, or was it a series of incidents that happened in your life that led up to that point? And it turned out to be a series of incidents that led up to that.
Mm.
It was not just that incident. It was a whole bunch of different things that led that of similar things, similar incidents that happened in my life, other impressions that were put into my life that made that so solid that I didn't want it. I left it behind. And so we did, in shamanic work, we call that soul retrieval. So you go back and get that piece of your soul and bring it back into you.
So you're basically talking about those times when we're not feeling so good and then stuff gets in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You're not talking about none of this has anything to do with or is even necessary for somebody for those times when they're feeling good. When they're in that place. Okay.
And we know that yeah, and we know that Steve went through that in his lifetime, because he said, when he was looking at the pictures, I love the story that he told about when he saw the picture of himself as the 10-year-old and he saw himself as the 16-year-old, and such a dark place that 16-year-old was in compared to the 10-year-old. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, I mean, there was a pretty difference. You can see the pictures too; they were very, very different.
Yeah, so you can actually see it, in the picture, and so that his soul was in a very dark place at that time from all the damage that was done to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to, through the work that he did, by doing the work, he was able to figure out where those pieces of his soul were, to recover to find that happy boy again.
Mm-hmm.
Because that happy boy was somewhere lost someplace.
And he was happy to rediscover that kid. I mean, when he saw that photo, that was the great joy of finding that photo, because he got to see that kid and remember, yes, I was that kid. I was in that happy place. We basically take that photo back in the way that it needs to be taken back as a plus thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So going back to what you said a moment ago, maybe I misunderstood the way you said it, but you said now that he's got that article out there, and yes, he's been getting a lot of positives, but there's also the negative stuff, and the negative stuff must be affecting him on some level. I think that probably is only going to be true if there are times where he kind of slips back into what it felt like when he was a kid. If he doesn't slip back, then it really can't affect him on that.
That's true. But we have moods, and we can't be in a ultimate high vibration place 24/7. There's going to be moments when someone's going to say something to him that is going to remind him of those times when he was in that low vibration place, and that's going to bring his vibration down.
So Abraham would say that at those points where you have a down moment,
right,
as we're calling it, if you want to change the experience, then you just raise yourself up to a higher vibration again.
Right, right, and then you have to go back and clear it.
Do you? I think that.
Well, I mean,
that's my point. That's the thing that I think Abraham was saying. You really don't have to. Just the act of raising yourself to the higher vibration does what you're calling the clearing.
Right. That's what I mean by the clearing.
Oh, okay.
That is the clearing.
The real question is it sticking around? If it's sticking around, then this kind of clearing that you're doing makes sense. But if you're getting into the high vibration place, you just skip this part. It's not going to be important.
Agreed. And but the majority of my clients are definitely not in that place. That's why after we do the work of the inner child progression, and next week I want to hit on the brain cell restructuring, which is again which is a different protocol that actually changes the way that your brain is wired to receive negative impressions, that negative energy. It rewires it so that way it can help you maintain that high vibration place.
Okay, I'm definitely going to need that next week because my sister's coming to visit. So
I'll get you all wired up then. You'll be good to go.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now there was a couple of questions I wanted to. Did Suraj have a question?
Suraj had a question, right? He says, and this is tying back to the earlier part of the conversation we had on the show where we were talking about soul contracts and the many soul contracts that get negotiated in the land office in the sky before we get here.
Land office.
I was trying to think of an appropriate analogy, but I couldn't come up with one. Anyway, Siraj says it's a nice conversation. I like it. But Bill, what's your opinion on Dr. Wayne Dyer's theories on the same topic, or what's your opinion about his documentary, The Shift? Are you familiar with that one? I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I know a little bit of Wayne Dyer, and I don't know that documentary.
Oh, okay. Do you know anything about what Dyer has to say about soul contracts?
No, I'm sorry.
Hmm,
I
okay.
haven't read Dyer that much.
So I'm afraid we can't really directly. I have no idea what Dyer says, so I can't address it either. Do you know, Alex, have you any familiarity with what Wayne Dyer says about soul contracts?
Not at all.
No,
No.
I'm
So
sorry. Sorry,
sorry,
Suraj.
Sebastian, I struck out on that one. But if you can get us more details about what Dyer says, maybe we can address that. Maybe for the next show, but I'm afraid we can't answer all questions. It would be nice
Yeah.
to do that, but there are some things that are outside of our knowledge and experience, so we can't do it. But thank you anyway. We appreciate you sharing the question. And I'd also want to make sure I would be remiss because I have been remiss lately in reminding people who are listening and enjoying the podcast who are not yet subscribers to become subscribers. If you aren't a subscriber yet, please become one because you get all these shows coming right to your smartphone every single time that we publish them, and it's so easy to do. You just go to the homepage of our website at loatoday.net. And right at the top of the page, there's a great big icon with a little text that says, this is your device. This is the kind of operating system your device uses. Just click here and it'll walk you right through it. And it does. And then you're a subscriber. And then, of course, once you're a subscriber, make sure that you are sharing on social media the fact that you're listening each time that you're listening to one of these shows, because that's how we spread the message along. That's how we give everybody their daily dose of happy. And those are the messages for the day. Well, actually, there's a third message. If you have one, Bill, do you want to tell people how to reach out for you in case they're looking for a little SRT, a little therapy
Absolutely.
training, clearing out all those bad programs and bad contracts I got in there?
Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook. I'm easy to find on Facebook. Spirit William G. And also we've got the Vital Bioenergetics. That's the name of my healing practice. NinaG.com, NINAGEE.com. That's my website. I also have a weekly blog, and I just absolutely love being here. And let's keep up the good work.
Very good. Okay.
Yes,
And
let's.
I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Alex's podcast that she does. Once again, the name skips my mind.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. There it is. Spoiler alert. I remembered what the name of it was. Spoiler. Anything new on spoiler alert?
Nothing as of yet. There's a couple things going on, but nothing major. So, we're gonna stick with the monthly schedule that we're doing. And in between here and there, we're gonna be having a guest host. So that's gonna be yeah.
Unless, of course, there comes up an emergency situation, some news item or whatever, and then I'm sure you'll be addressing that because you always do that.
Of course.
I mean, that's what the whole point is, right? To be able to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
wait, I got the earliest on the latest," so there it is.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Good stuff. And by the way, I'll just let people know without knowing the details because we don't have enough time to go into it. But Alex and I have made a lot of progress on the what we're now calling the audio play that we're creating, the Grass is Greener, the fiction podcast about poor old Nance who's trying desperately to get into healthy relationships and who's going to get a little help from an LOA teacher to help her figure out how to get there. But the first episode is almost completely done. It's actually done. We just have to kind of do our finishing touches to it. And I've already
Yep.
shared it with Dark Dry Drew, who used to do the Thursday afternoon shows with me, who also has a background with filmmaking. And he gave us his thumbs up. He thinks the script, in his words, is solid. He thinks it's good. So, first good review that we got, and that's worth celebrating.
Yay.
Yay! More to come, I'm sure. Well, Bill, thank you very much for doing all the spinning of the pendulum there. We appreciate that so much. And
Right.
thank you also for being our guinea pig and not choking on the pellets. It's a really good thing. Thank you to our live stream audience. Thank you to our podcast listeners as well. And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.